Today, Dr. Cuthbert Joseph holds the position of Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago resident in Port of Spain. He's also Special Advisor to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs on international legal matters. But 60 years ago, he was making his way from Siparia to Port of Spain to begin his first job with the colonial government. It was 1949.
Growing up in Siparia, I had a vision. I particularly avoided working in the oil fields. I sometimes regret it. And I was invited to become a second-class clerk in the warden's office in Siparia, in the magistracy in Siparia, and in the works department in Siparia. And I refused all those jobs. And I kept on writing to the colonial secretary, who were recruiting second-class clerks, that I wanted to do something else. And I got this first job as acting second-class clerk in the colonial secretary's office.
Jokingly describing himself as a country boy, Dr. Joseph emphasizes the value of the strong foundation he received from his family and the community upbringing in Siparia. His father, he says, was his first mentor, a man with a vision, an educator.
I remember very well as a young man growing up, his father, W. Joseph, ran a school in Siparia and trained a lot of the entrants for jobs in the oil industry and other industries in South at the time.
I came from a home and a village where I was exposed to secondary education in the home in which I lived. That was a school. It was a school which was the only secondary school in the whole of County St. Patrick. It was a kind of passport to a job in the expanding oil industry at the time. So that was my background. I came from an atmosphere of service.
With a passion for learning and a curiosity about the world, Cuthbert Joseph was self-motivated, at times teaching himself and his peers as well. Although he started off with a modest academic background, one might say that his role as an educator began when he was in secondary school. To him, it was simply about sharing.
From whatever angle you look at him, Dr. Joseph is an educator. You never leave a discussion with Dr. Joseph without being enriched or enlightened. Sometimes even in a jovial environment, he's giving you a joke, but there's a moral behind the story that he's giving you. It is a natural part of his being. That's the person he is.
It was while working for the colonial government that he began to earn recognition, receiving a scholarship to attend the University College of the West Indies, Mora, Jamaica. It was 1955. As he recalls, his interest in politics began even before university.
My interest in politics, I would say, began in St. Patrick, because as I said, I was born in 27, on the 15th of December 1927. And the big event in Trinidad and Tobago, in Trinidad and Tobago's history, was the 19th of June 1937, the Butler riot. And I was 9 years of age. I became very, very conscious of the impact of the Butler riot. And then there was the commission, the Moyne Commission following that, where the British government sent a Lord Moyne, to inquire into the conditions, social and economic life of the people of the whole Caribbean. So all this is part of the politics which I became very, very excited about.
As a university student, Dr. Joseph witnessed the birth of the People's National Movement. He remembers the impact that this made on him.
I always, with a certain amount of concern, compared the politics of Trinidad and Tobago at this time with the politics of Jamaica and Barbados. Because as you know, in Barbados, we had a whole movement of a national political party based on the work of the trade unions. a similar thing in Jamaica. We had no similar thing in Trinidad and Tobago. So when Dr. Williams started in 1955, 56, and carrying on with all his political education, I was extremely excited.
With a Bachelor of Arts degree, Dr. Cuthbert Joseph took up his first job in the Premier's office as a personal assistant to the late Dr. Eric Williams. The year was 1959.
And from 1959 until 1962, and worked very closely with Dr. Williams. He was this very hard worker, and like a professor, I was like a kind of, kind of charge hand, learning in a very practical way, research and so on, which has stood me in very good stead. Mr. Premier said, Cuthbert, I want you to understand that you're my personal assistant. So I had this very close relationship with Dr. Williams.
Dr. Joseph worked with Dr. Williams until 1962, when Trinidad and Tobago gained independence. This marked the beginning of his hands-on political education.
Because I was preparing Dr. Williams for his debates in Parliament. I was doing research for his speeches. I was assisting in the federal talks with respect to the revision of the federal colonial constitution. Then I was also working with him on the question of the revision of the 1941 lease basis agreement between Britain and the United States of America. I was secretary of the Trinidad and Tobago delegation.
In 1962, he was awarded a research fellowship by the Swiss government. So he left Trinidad to pursue a PhD at the Graduate Institute of International Studies, University of Geneva, Switzerland. Returning to Trinidad in 1968, Dr. Joseph's passion for education continued as he took up the post of senior lecturer at the Institute of International Relations at the University of the West Indies, St. Augustine.
So Joseph was part of a team that worked together to introduce into Trinidad a project called Model United Nations. So he was very critical as a member of that team to the outcome that we were trying to achieve.
It was while lecturing in international law that he witnessed the rise of the Black Power movement on the university campus.
I saw the Black Power movement evolve. I liked it. I liked it because the Black Power movement really was the manifestation of a protest of youth in our part of the world. At this time, you had the Beatles emerging. You had the Jackson 5. You had figures like Castro and Ho Chi Minh and Che Guevara. Gave a new inspiration to the young people.
Following the 1970 Black Power uprising, Dr. Cuthbert Joseph entered electoral politics. It was 1971.
When I was asked if I would stand for elections, I gladly accepted. And in fact, very naively, I thought I could change things, but I couldn't change anything. I came there with a vision of trying to make a difference. But it's not like that. I had to learn in a very hard way.
An elected member of parliament from 1971 to 1986, Dr. Joseph represented the constituency of East Port of Spain. His vision then, as it is today, was
nation building is the common task before us. Let us organize ourselves into communities. Let us work together on the basis of self-help, self-reliance, and human dignity. That was my motto. That was my strategy. And so that I took that to my constituency. That if we are going to have any vision 2020 or vision, whatever vision, it is not by government giving the people things. It's by government engaging the people to work to bring about the people's and the country's development.
Errol Mahabir remembers Dr. Joseph's tenure in this way.
His first ministerial appointment was in the office of the Prime Minister. And from there he went to the Ministry of External Affairs as minister in the ministry, again under Dr. Williams. After that he assumed the office of Minister of External Affairs. And then he became Minister of Education. And I think this is where he excelled because of his background.
It was as Minister of Education that Dr. Joseph is perhaps best known. He held this post from 1976 to 1981. It was a challenging period, as he was charged with the responsibility of the expansion of secondary school facilities.
It was difficult because not only was the ministry unwieldy, but what was more unwieldy was the sudden expansion in secondary education with the start of the junior secondary school system. The work was started to build 9 new senior comprehensive schools between June of 1975 to August of 1976 to house the next batch of 6,000 students coming from the junior secondary system. That was a headache, and that was madness. And I mean, it was an impossible task. And when I assumed duties in the Ministry of Education in September of 1976, of these 9 senior comprehensive schools, which were supposed to be ready for August, or at least for August, there were only about 3 of them ready. So that was quite a challenge, because there was no point in my going crying to Dr. Williams. I had to solve the problem. And I would always remember, it was an early Saturday in October of 1976 when I went to Chaguanas and saw the state of the building of the Chaguanas Senior Comprehensive School. And all the contractors and my civil servants were telling me, this school, which is supposed to be ready in August of 1976, it will be ready in January 1977. But I learned very quickly, I figured out that will not be ready in 1977. That school will not be ready in 1977. And I had to take a decision early in October of 1976 to open the Chaguanas Senior Comprehensive School in San Fernando at the end of October with the Pleasantville Senior Comprehensive School, busing 1,000 children from Chaguanas to San Fernando every day.
Dr. Joseph saw these schools as more than buildings. Indeed, he sought to introduce the idea of the community school.
My whole idea of education, because of the way I was brought up and my own education in the country, was, as I say, this welding together of the influence of the school, the home, and the community. So I thought that this concept of the community school, with the idea that education should be from the cradle to the grave, to have a program so that people are involved with the lights on, whether in the afternoon there'll be cake making, exercise classes, teaching of basketball, and whatever it is. The lights should never go off in the school. And the school should not only be the school building.
Today, Dr. Joseph says that in retrospect, in each school that he opened, he would have placed a plaque which reads, "This school belongs to you, the students, teachers, parents, and the community. You will get out of it what you put into it." Former Cabinet Minister Marilyn Gordon recalls her experiences of working with Dr. Joseph as a parliamentary secretary.
Dr. Joseph was, I think, the minister who trained his parliamentary secretaries so that he took us on board and briefed us on what was expected of us and so on, and exposed us to a whole range of the political activities.
Roy Mitchell reflects on Dr. Joseph's attention to the need for collaboration and participation.
When he was Minister of Education and Culture, and it was a time during which there was a lot of turbulence in the education sector, and Dr. Joseph had to find a way to calm the waters, to bring everybody to the table, for them to come to terms with the fact that we were all seeking one objective, and that was to improve the educational system.
Whether it was in the cabinet, in the ministry, the constituency, or with special interest groups, Dr. Joseph's approach was always thorough and people-oriented.
as a member of the cabinet, his contributions were very, very incisive. When he had an intervention, it was well thought out and constructive.
The one that stands out in my mind is a meeting with Pantrin Baker that we were supposed to have on a Saturday morning, mind you, on a Saturday. So on the Friday or the Thursday, we had a complete meeting with role playing. We had people playing the part of the steel bandman, people playing the part of the minister, complete to when we would stop to have drinks. It was a new experience to me. I didn't realize people could prepare like that for a meeting.
After the 1981 elections, Dr. Joseph was moved from the Ministry of Education.
I was sent by Mr. Chambers, the new Prime Minister, to the Ministry of Local Government and Community Development and Local Government. That was an interesting policy concept of combining community development with local government. So I thought that that was a very challenging thing, and I moved to try to institutionalize the link between community development and local government.
Some may recall that Prime Minister George Chambers embarked on a countrywide Meet the People tour. As Minister of Local Government, Dr. Joseph was part of the team. It was 1982. From 1985 to 1986, Dr. Joseph held the post of Minister of Public Utilities.
When he was Minister of Public Utilities, I remember that he was the one who sanctioned the introduction of the newest technology at that time in electricity development, electricity generation. That is what is called the combined cycle plant, which created greater efficiencies in the use of our energy.
After a 15-year career in politics, Dr. Cuthbert Joseph returned to one of his favorite subjects. In 1990, he completed a law degree and went on to teach law until 2002, when he took up his current position as Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary.
The important thing I want to say here is that while I was in all these ministries, my main focus has been on people. People being the center of human development. People being the cause, the purpose, the subject of development. People being the instrument of development. The most precious resource of the nation is our human resource. How could they be totally integrated in a participatory way in the developmental process on the basis of democracy, on the basis of participation, on the basis of stakeholdership? This was my firm commitment. I tried, and I don't think I succeeded.
A visionary, caring person, a person who wanted only the best for Trinidad and Tobago, and particularly for the young people of Trinidad and Tobago. One who didn't want narrow boundaries to constrict people. One who wanted to see Trinidadians all over the world leading.
With such a prolific career, Dr. Joseph has remained a humble student of life, a family man, a man dedicated to community service.
He's such a humble man. He doesn't look forward to awards or rewards or recognition or anything like that. He's quite prepared to stay in the background, do what he has to do to the best of his ability, and see the country and the people benefit from whatever contribution he makes. And I think that's the way he is. I mean, there's no way in the world you can get him to change. That's the way he is.
In 2009, he received the Shakonia Medal Gold for National Development.
It was a great privilege that I was able, as I said 60 years ago, to leave my home in the country, in a rural area, come to Port of Spain and be given the opportunity in my country of birth to make a contribution at this level to the human development at this time in the history of our people.